The way Israel is conducting itself in Gaza is unacceptable from a humanitarian perspective. From a military standpoint, it's counterproductive because with all those murdered children and parents, it creates an entirely new generation of fighters. It isolates Israel within the international community and turns it into a pariah state, which, by the way, is also extremely bad for the position of Jews in the diaspora. And last but not least, it's bad for Europe because it forces an artificial and unnecessary divide between the West on the one hand and the Islamic world on the other, and because Israeli actions risk leading to a new large-scale flow of refugees towards our countries. It's precisely your friends and allies who should criticize you when you make mistakes. So offering such criticism is not about cuddling up to Hamas or anti-Semitism, as it is unfortunately all too often framed. I was raised deeply pro-Israel. I have a great deal of admiration for the tremendous vitality of that country, and I truly understand the people in Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Sderot who regularly have rockets raining down on them and have to rush to bomb shelters. But of course, none of that means that I always agree with the Israeli government, or that Israel has a moral carte blanche to commit mass murder and ethnic cleansing. Shortly after the events of October 7, 2023, I warned that an Israeli campaign of destruction against Gaza would be a monumental mistake. Just as I did shortly after October 7th, I want to emphasize that I deeply sympathize with the victims and the families of those affected by the horrific attacks. It was a repugnant act of terror, and it was also a catastrophic and staggering failure on the part of the Israeli military. It is horrific to imagine what has happened and is happening to the Israeli hostages, as well as to those who are still in the hands of Hamas. At the same time, it is nonsense to claim that the more than 60,000 Gazan children, women, and men who have now been killed were all potential Hamas fighters, or to say that it was simply collateral damage. At least 70% of all buildings and homes have been bombed to the ground. 68% of all farmland has been destroyed, and famine threatens to claim the lives of hundreds of thousands of Gazans. This goes beyond all proportions. It concerns an estimated 20 hostages still alive in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel is holding around 10,000 Palestinians, a large portion of whom are detained without charge or trial, including 440 Palestinian children. For a country that explicitly presents itself as part of Western civilization, none of this can simply be justified. What Israel should have done, I already mentioned in my brief speech shortly after October 7th. First of all, mourn the victims, claim the moral high ground, then carry out targeted actions against those responsible, secure your own border control so that this kind of madness can never happen again. And then convene an international committee, for example, in the form of the Trusteeship Council that the United Nations still has, to establish sustainable and responsible self-governance for the Palestinian territories so that real peace can be achieved. An Israel that had realized this could have responded to the events of October 7th in a superior manner and could have enforced it that way. After all, who could have refused Israel anything right after that horrific terrorist attack? Instead, Israel has chosen to take revenge in blind devastation, completely out of proportion, thereby squandering the goodwill it had gained and achieving exactly the opposite of what it hopes to achieve, namely, ensuring that the innocent victims of October 7th did not die in vain. We cannot support this violent, destructive, and senseless policy of Israel. It is in the interest of Israel, the Palestinians, and Europe alike to bring this conflict to an end rather than to continue escalating it. That is why we will support a large number of proposals to put pressure on Israel, indeed marking a break from our previous position.